What's good? How y'all doing this evening?
What's up?
What's going on, man?
Not much. Y'all welcome back to the Forever I Love Atlanta Sports Podcast. It's a FILA Sports Podcast. This your boy, The Don. I'm joined with GSHM on DaVonte. What's good, man?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great, man. Great. So, we're back. I know we was out last week. I had to go take care of some personal issues. Y'all know how it is sometimes. But we back now. And tonight we're going to talk about college football within the state of Georgia. We ain't just talking about UGA, a Tech. We also got Georgia State. We got Georgia Southern on here as well. Sorry for my Kennesaw State people. They're not going to have a season this year. So, hey, they tried. So, if you're new to the channel, you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Also, share this content out with Atlanta sports fanatics. Hit that like button. And also, hit us up in the comment section if you're watching this at a later time. As always, come holla at your hometown sports podcast. All right. I already introduced DaVonte to the show already. We got 3 other people. I'm gonna start with Julian. What's good for you? What's good with you and what you up to, and tell them where they can find you.
So basically, I cover all Georgia State news. You can come find me at my YouTube channel, Cynical Peach. I discuss mainly Georgia sports, especially when it comes to athletes that play in the sport. But I am a huge State fan, and I can't wait to get going.
All right. Appreciate you coming on. And he's also a fellow GSHM content creator as well. Mike Anthony, what's good with you? Tell everybody where they can find you.
Hey, Don, good to be back. I'm the sports editor for the Statesboro Herald, covering all things Georgia Southern athletics. You can find us on statesboroherald.com, and you can find me on Twitter at HeraldGSsports.
All right. And we have back with us Jimy Lincoln, national champion, 1990 Georgia Tech team. He was a running back, in case y'all didn't know. What's good with you, Mr. Lincoln?
Not too much, man. Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it, man. Ready to talk some college football. Hopefully, everything I guess happens, man. That's supposed to happen, and we get to see our favorite teams play.
Exactly. That's what we talking about, man. All right. So let's start with and I'm gonna get to the chat here in a minute, you guys, and everybody in the chat. Thank y'all for joining us. Once again, if y'all not following us on social media, follow us at Twitter at FILA_SP. We also on Facebook, FILA Sports Podcast. And if you just want to just check out the audio, we also on Apple Podcasts, we on Spotify, we on Anchor, we on Google Podcasts, you name it, we on it. All right, just download it and give us a good review on those platforms. Yeah, you ain't got to do it now, but so here's doggone my stuff crashing. All right, you still there, Julian?
Yeah, I'm still there. Sorry about that.
Well, you got a phone call or something?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I can tell. It crashed up my background. I'm fixing it though. It's good. You all right? All right. So let's pretty much talk about schedule. I'm gonna start with you. I'm gonna start with you, Mike.
Yeah, for Georgia Southern, they've been a little bit more fortunate than some teams, I think, especially in the G5 with how their schedule looks. They still, as of right now, they've got 11 games on the docket. They did lose their first one scheduled for September 5th. They were going to go out to Boise State. That was going to be a great G5 matchup. Looks like that one is going for good. From everything I've heard, Georgia Southern is content with 11 games, not really looking to fill that extra date, especially since it's at the front of the schedule, and seeing as how everybody's trying to make it back from what's been a tough summer. I think all indications are that head coach Chad Lunsford and his team, they'll just kind of take that one fewer game and counted as one more week of practice to try to get back. And other than that, they've got a full Sun Belt slate. Everybody's ready to go in the Sun Belt. They lost one other game against Ole Miss that was scheduled for November 11th out in Oxford. They dropped that, but they picked up another one and said they're going to be going north. Going to be a little bit cold for everybody in Statesboro's liking, but they'll be heading to upstate New York. They're taking on Army. The rest of the out-of-conference schedule, it'll be their first two games now on the schedule, a pair of home games, September 12th against Campbell. They're with Kennesaw State in the Big South, where they're not playing the regular season conference games, but they're allowing them to play out-of-conference if they'd like. So Campbell still wants to come to Statesboro, and then the next week they'll have an interesting game against Florida Atlantic. It'll be the first meeting ever between those two schools.
All right. Appreciate you. So to all the Georgia Southern people, hey, y'all having a season, and that's your rundown of your games. Georgia State, what's in stake for state this season?
Well, for one, we lost Murray State because of the Ohio Valley Conference took away a game, so they canceled their season. So we're content with 10 games for the season. So right now we're slated to play in week 3 in the Sun Belt, and that's going to be against Louisiana Lafayette. And it's going to be an interesting season for Georgia State. Last season we went 7-6, our best in school history, but Darlington tore his ACL, our quarterback. So that really hindered the season, even though we made it to a bowl game. The interesting thing about Georgia State is, for one, we got a new stadium sponsor for this new season. So now the stadium's going to be called Credit Park Stadium. The deal is for 15 years with over $21 million, one of the biggest in the Group of 5 conference. And also the school had some really nice recruits this season. We got some transfers from some P5 schools. And I think most of all, Georgia State is positioning itself to really grow in the next few seasons. We have some good out-conference games against South Carolina. Most of all, we have some great games even against Georgia Tech in the future. So things are looking up, but for now, we have a young group of guys, and so we're looking at molding them. So 2020 will look to be another growing year, but 2021 is hopefully the season that's really going to be huge for State.
Okay. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to still call it Turner Field. So I ain't calling it all that. I'm going to still call it Turner Field. All right. Appreciate you on that. Mr. Lincoln, what's going on with Tech? What's going on the flats this season?
Hey man, we're pretty excited about the current situation, man. I guess our schedule is it's 11 games as well. Of course, all conference and conference games, starting with Florida State. Then I guess let me correct myself. It's not all in conference, but the second game of the season is with UCF. So that's the one game that I believe is going to be out of conference. Then you have Syracuse, the Louisville Cardinals, Clemson. We take on Boston College in October, toward the end of October. And then Notre Dame. I guess they're considering that one, and then in conference game this year, I believe. And then the last few games of the season will be Pitt, Miami, Duke, and then we finish up with NC State.
Okay. See, I don't understand Notre Dame. Like, they want to be independent, but they allowed them to just, because all the other sports teams outside of football is ACC, except for the football team. So correct. I guess now they wanted to group them to be, we ACC team, we want to play too. Like, okay, well. Yeah,
I think that's because of all the money they have, man. They don't like sharing that money, especially that NBC money they get, right?
Exactly.
That's right. They have with them. They don't want to share it, but they're gonna have to share it this year, from what I understand.
Yeah, they got to. Well, it's better to share some than not have none at all, because if they, just think about all the money that most of these teams are not gonna, all this money that these schools are gonna lose out on. I'm holding back. I'm holding back the tears right now because I'm a diehard Michigan fan, and we're not playing. So,
Yeah,
man.
that's kind of tough, man. But I understand. I understand it.
All right,
Crazy year.
DaVonte, what's going on up in Athens this season? How the Bulldogs schedule looking like?
It looks like a good schedule now. Got some games that people are gonna love to watch. I believe that their only most difficult game, I believe, is when they go at against Alabama. Outside of that, I think they're gonna finish almost with 10-1. I think this is gonna be one of those seasons where they dominate the opposition and shows what UGA is all about.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, hey, that's pretty much the schedules of the teams right there. Let me go in the chat real quick. Ziggy, what's good, man? Nap Dog, how you doing, Nap Dog? Hey, football is awesome. Yeah, you ain't lying about that. If you ain't subscribed to the channel, Nap Dog, man, hey, subscribe to the channel. Yes, I'm gonna follow you right here in a minute on Twitter too. Appreciate your handle, man. I'm gonna follow you. Carl, he said, what's good, Carl? He said Notre Dame was once a major threat to win the title every year, but now what happened? Pretty much they still are. They was like that last year until they ran into Georgia. Last year they had them predicted to make the playoffs preseason, and then they went to Athens and got their behinds handed to them. So, what's good, Mad Mike? All right, next question. We pretty much covered all the major news of the teams. So during this pandemic, we have conferences that opted out playing. You got the Pac-12 saying that they're not going to play, and then you also have the Big Ten saying they're not going to play. Sun Belt, we know Georgia's pretty much Sun Belt, SEC, ACC. All right. So, Julian, what's your opinion about the team playing this year? Do you think they should play, or do you think they should just sit out for the player's safety?
Honestly, and it's a complex issue, and I don't fault anyone for going either way, but I do think the season should be played, and not just from a money perspective, but if you allow the player, if the season doesn't happen from the Sun Belt, you never know what could happen to the players. They might go to some random club somewhere and get infected with COVID-19, but at least if they get COVID-19 in within playing, they've accessed some of the best health care that any player could have. And while they're student athletes, they're able to, at least stay quarantined and test negative and then go back and play again. And also, as a small conference, it would be really hard for the Sun Belt to close for a season, since especially football wise, you have the powers in the Appalachian State, and you also have Louisiana and Arkansas State. But I do think that the league should play, but of course with caution. So I don't believe that we'll have anyone to stay in the stands for all this season. So the Sun Belt Championship is going to be empty. But I do think, especially for national exposure, this would be a good chance for the Sun Belt to get some more national exposure. I would love to see Georgia State and Georgia Southern, when they play, it gets more eyes. Maybe it gets more eyes for both the recruits who are looking to go to a school like Southern or State. So it's a complex issue, but I would rather them play the season.
All right. Appreciate you. Mike Anthony, what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what Julian said, especially because Georgia Southern's in very much the same boat as Georgia State. You don't want to make it about money, but for a lot of the G5 schools, that's exactly what it's about. You've got a school like Georgia and, Georgia Tech, where they've probably got a little bit more of a rainy day fund saved up to where they can help themselves, help out the programs that depend on the money that comes in from football to maybe get you through a year, even if it's going to be lean times. For programs like Georgia State, Georgia Southern, and really about 50% of all of FBS, they need those game checks that some of those have already disappeared. And with those gone, they really need to continue to get the TV money from the contracts they do have. Otherwise, you're not going to have any sports at all, because how are you going to fund a baseball team, a tennis team, a rifle team without football? It's just not going to happen. But, on the other hand, you can't let money be the determinant of whether or not you're going to throw a bunch of kids who you promised to take care of into harm's way. So if things can remain safe, I think that it's worth it to try at least. I think there's also something to be said for the fact that another big issue in college sports is the NIL issue with can players get paid? You know, they're grown men who are making decisions with their bodies, putting it on the line. Should they get some money for that? I think you can make the same kind of argument saying that this is a health issue that concerns them. You need to be able to let them make a choice of whether they want to go out there and, maybe get themselves a pro contract, or do they want to think about the grandmas and grandpas that they have to come home to at some point and maybe say, hey, as much as I love the game, it's just not in the cards for this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's good. All right. Mr. Lincoln.
Yes, sir.
Thoughts?
I just this is my personal take on the whole pandemic and that sort of thing, man. I think no one is really sure what's out there, right? The experts that we hear from day to day, it changes, and that's the reason for some of these conferences saying, from 1 week to the next that, okay, we're going to play. No, we're not going to play. Then now I hear that you have Justin Fields, and he has this petition, I think with like 30,000 signatures on it from players to play. Right. But for me, man, if I'm a parent and my son is at one of these schools and, we're discussing it, I'm going to tell him not to play because I'm not sure. I mean, I think the rest of his life is more important than, 11 games. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it, man. I don't see, me allowing my son to play during this period.
And that's coming from a former athlete, a former football player who played D1, who won championships. Right,
Yeah, I just think I think life is more important, man. That football lasts only a short period, and I understand that a lot of other people who have played or may not have played, may think differently, but the rest of your life, man, after football is a lot longer than that 4 or 5 years, and a lot longer than just one season. And for the cats that are going to go to the NFL, who have a chance at an NFL career, they're still going to have it, whether they play or not. Yeah. Those NFL teams know who they are. Those general managers know who they are. They're going to talk to the people at the school. And, if you have a shot, you're still going to have a shot, whether you play now or play next year. And then, for me, man, with if they don't play this fall, they say they're going to play again. They're going to play in the spring. And then you're going to have 2 seasons within the same calendar year. So you're going to play in the spring of 2021, and then you're going to play in the fall of 2021. That's a lot on the body, man. That's a lot. I mean, those guys are they're taking, however many snaps, during practice, during spring ball, and I mean, outside of just playing, right? So you're saying, they're taking, 2,000-3,000 snaps within a season, and you're going to do that twice? That's going to be difficult.
Yeah, that is crazy. And I'm thought about this. People saying that they want to do play in the spring. How that's going to work though? Like, you got bowl games and stuff in January, so you pretty much just, in my opinion, it's going to be like glorified spring season, like spring game. That's what they're going to be doing. Like, you're not playing for any championships. You just pretty much play. If anything, you pretty much playing to have scouters come, NFLs and stuff to come and see you. And then the draft is in May. Well,
yeah. They're gonna have to move all of that, man. Yeah, they would have to move all of that.
See, that's crazy. And then you move that, then that's going to affect the team, the NFL teams, because you got rookie OTAs and all that stuff in late May and June. So
not only that, but just logistically for any school to do it, you got to think about what happens. Well, if you're going to play football in the spring, baseball and basketball and all the spring and winter sports, they don't want to hear that they can't play. So how are you going to pull all that off? The players might be different, but you've got the same administrators, the same operations people, the same security. You don't want to hire triple as many. You can't afford that. You're already out some money. How are you going to pull that off with a whole different season, and that being the biggest season occurring right in the middle of what's already the busiest time of the college sports calendar.
And also,
Right.
you move it closer to
Exactly.
college basketball. You don't want college basketball and college football possibly competing against each other. I mean, that's why you have that space for. And I think for the athletes, I think it also goes back to smaller school versus bigger school. I mean, for a smaller school, if there is an athlete at Georgia Southern, Georgia State, who has a shot at making the draft and this is possibly his last year of eligibility, then the shutting down of a season. I mean, you don't know if that could be a season to maybe move into the draft or be a difference in him being signed as an undrafted free agent. So it's a really complicated issue, and I do think it crosses over to just have the haves and have nots. Like maybe a Tech athlete could afford that, an ACC not to play for a season, but could a Sun Belt or an American or any other small conferences afford that? It's a tricky question.
Yeah, my take on it, man, just having in the spring, that offset and that throws everything off. Throw everything off. You got baseball, like Tech right now. I think in the ACC has one of the best baseball teams. All right. So you trying to say, well, we know Tech playing this fall, but what if they say ACC tomorrow say, wait, we change it into the spring? That's gonna throw everything off. So, either have the season in the fall or you just don't have the season, and then you just come back strong fall of 2021.
21.
Because you're not playing like. If I was an athlete and my school said we playing in the spring, I'm not playing in the spring. We're not playing for a championship. We're not playing for we'll probably play for a conference title, but that's about it. That conference title is your national championship right now. So
Right.
no, I'm good on that. All right, let me go back in the chat. Carl, he said they should have a fall champion and a spring champion. No, we're not. That sounds like a SmackDown and a SmackDown champion and a Raw champion. No, man, this ain't wrestling.
That's not gonna work.
No, so you go pretty much. So okay, let me keep reading. The two champions face each other for a national title, kind of like the way Mexican soccer works. I like the idea, but at the same time, that's when they gonna play when they gonna play for the championship though.
Yeah,
Because
we're
you're gonna have the
fall
fall
champ,
team. They're
spring
gonna be out
champ.
for the whole semester, and then the spring team just finished playing. So what? They gonna play in the summer? That's gonna pretty much get the spring champion the upper advantage because they've been playing for a while.
I would just have a heavyweight title unification bout.
It's a good idea, but I don't think that'll work, man. Because you know who's gonna win. Like, all right,
Yeah, that's tough.
What you say?
I said that's tough, right? I mean, I just don't think they could do the two champions, man. That doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense at all. And then you're not gonna have all conferences taking part in the season, right? There are already a couple of conferences that said that they're not participating.
Yep.
So how does that work?
Because the Big Ten said they're not playing. Period. They're not even playing in the spring.
That shocked me the most.
Yeah, you got Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State,
Michigan State.
Yeah.
And Luscious Change, they said you have to think about how those players work their high school careers to get where they are. With no combine, things just seem questionable to them. So they want to play. Yeah, there's people out there who want to play, but you got to think about it. Like I look at it from both sides of the spectrum. I just don't look at it from one point of view. All right. Like Mr. Lincoln just said, man, we older in this chat. Like me, Mike Anthony, and Mr. Lincoln, we got kids. So we know, as a father, we know the first thing we need to do, man, is to protect our kids. Because sometimes even you 18, 19, 20 year old, yeah, you an adult, but sometimes you don't make the right decisions at that age. You just thinking, I want to do this, but
I can definitely
sometimes they
attest to
don't
that.
think, they're very impulsive thinkers.
That's true. Just for instance, man, I read something earlier today about a school actually in North Georgia, and not only North Georgia, but I think UNC as well. Students were on campus, and they already have. I think it was North Georgia. They have like 130 130 cases because they were out in some apartment complex or somewhere in a large gathering, and they were having a party or whatever whatever they were doing out there, and now 130 people were diagnosed with the virus. I mean, how is that going to work? You can't. I mean, I understand everyone wants to play, but you can't have 100 people in the locker room, man. That's just players, right? So if what I remember is correct, it's still the same. You have your scholarship athletes, about 85, and you have another 20 or so walk on, right? And if all those people are in the locker room, man, somebody's bound to come up with this or come down with this virus. I just don't think it's worth it. That's just my opinion.
Mask and hand sanitizer only can do so much. Like it ain't gonna save you. Like that's just me.
And off your point, I saw Chris Owens. He's a center for Alabama. He tweeted about how in Tuscaloosa the fans are saying, "Yeah, we gotta play," and yet he tweeted out a picture of a huge gathering over like 300 people, like clustered together of Alabama fans without mask or anything. And he was like,
Right.
"How y'all gonna tell us to play? But you guys are catching the COVID cases." And Alabama at one point in the Southeast was one of the highest places of COVID cases. I'm not sure where it is now, but you can't ask players to play and then you guys act irresponsibly. That's just you've got to be some give and take there.
Let's be real.
Exactly.
People at Alabama fans, they not bright, man. Let's just call it like that, man, for real.
But that's the thing is we've been asking all these collegiate athletes to jump through hoops all summer. First, they had to go home in the spring. Then they had to be on their own. I was talking to the Georgia Southern strength and conditioning coach. He's having to devise workout plans out of nowhere because these guys don't have a home gym. They don't all have treadmills. They've got to, find a bag of cement in their garage and load that around, and they do it. They do it all to stay in shape, to report to camp somewhat in shape and get back to work. Now they're all wearing their masks. They're all isolating. They're doing all this work to try to do everything they can to stay safe. And one of those fans who are demanding football for their entertainment due to reward them, they throw a big party with hundreds of people there, get more people infected, make it that much more dangerous, that much more difficult to pull all this off.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Honestly, I just don't think the players should, be the circus animals for these fans just because they love football so much. I think health is way more important than football would ever be, because people could be, so mad that the football player is not playing, but what if your favorite player just gets into a coma and dies because they got COVID? And now you're like, oh man, I wanted to see football so bad. Like the health is way more important. Especially, I know for me, I'm 24, sports management major. It's gonna suck for me because of football season I'm playing because that's my life. My life is sports. But I'd rather somebody be alive the next day to actually be able to play again than for me to watch them and struggle and try to get through a disease or not disease, but whatever going through right now with the world.
I'm gonna end it with this. I'm gonna end the conversation with this, man. And this is from the great. Y'all know who this person is. Pops. John Witherspoon. Rest in peace, man. You win some, you lose some. But you live. You live to fight another day. So I agree with y'all. Like I feel like, the fan in me play, but end of the day, these are people kids, and we can't be taking people's life for granted. So, and the virus, if people saying that the virus should have been over by now, like what months ago they said, the virus should be over before September. No, cases are still going up, and it's concerning. So,
hey, look, man, New Zealand was one of the places that the virus didn't really hit hard. Just the other day, yesterday, the day before, now they're starting to, to feel the brunt of this virus, man. Everyone talked about how New Zealand, approached the virus and so forth. Now they have to really deal with it.
Yep. Zig, he said, do you all think the decisions from the Big Ten and Pac-12 will affect the future recruiting? I think so, because some of these kids are looking like, should I go to school here? Because they cancel their whole season, and if something like this come up again, I might not be able to play. So that could be a good you know, deal breaker for some of these kids that's just trying to go to school, like go to Michigan or go to Cal or go to Ohio State or Arizona State, you know. So, but right now we know ACC, SEC, they recruit. You know, can't nobody really out recruit those conferences. So I'm just being real. So
I think it might be okay for the Pac-12 or whatever they're calling themselves, right? Because California, the state of California, I guess maybe for the California schools, right? Because they're gonna let the kids, make money off their likeness.
oh yeah,
For what I understand, if I'm not mistaken, so it may not have that big of an impact on them.
I would also say there could be a silver lining that, if you do lose out on some recruits, I would think that they also might have, more to offer, because while some recruits might be a little bit more antsy to sign with those schools because of maybe something else popping up, I would anticipate that there's also going to be an exodus of current players from the current teams who try to go find somewhere else to play, maybe get an exemption to play right away. So it's really going to hurt in the short term, but that also could open up way more roster spots, give some guys that maybe they wouldn't have had a chance to win a recruiting battle with right now. You can walk up to them now and say, hey, you might have preferred this school, that school, the other, but you would have been waiting 2 years to play. Now, because we've kind of had a falling out of players and other recruits, you can walk right in here. You can be a freshman, sophomore starter. You can be one of those guys who's lining up to get themselves to the league in just a couple of years.
Yeah, I could also see maybe that some of these guys who maybe who got an offer from these bigger schools like in the Big Ten, maybe they see that, especially the pandemic, and even if without the pandemic, they don't get to start right away. So maybe they transfer. Maybe they go transfer to not just these other like ACC. Maybe they go to smaller conferences where they can start right away. So they can go to like a UCF, or they can go to a Southern State or whatever, and they can start right away. So this might have like Anthony said, you might have a short-term effect where you see a lot of these guys who probably weren't going to start in Big Ten schools transfer to conferences all over the country, including the smaller ones.
Yeah. But what if the NCAA was like, nah?
That would put the NCAA in some. I think we'll give them some hot water, especially during a pandemic. I know the NCAA isn't adverse to bad PR, but like you denying them a transfer request during a pandemic, during a time where conferences are closing up. I mean, you're going to tell a kid like, hey, yeah, don't do that because you're trying to play football, which we're trying to save.
Well, that and the NCAA, the brunt of the arguments or criticisms against them the last couple of months have been that they haven't, taken decisive action. They haven't been all-encompassing in their rulings, in their leanings. So what good would it do to start now and do it to prevent people from being able to do what they want to be able to get on with their careers?
Exactly. When they should be speaking up and taking, the first step or helping the situation, they've said nothing, absolutely nothing. That to me tells me that those old guys are only concerned about money.
Yeah, that's what it is, man. It's always about money,
That's
man.
the only thing they're concerned about, man. They're not concerned about the health of these players, student athletes at all. Now, this pandemic hits, you don't hear 3 words from them. Now let a student sell a book, or somebody give him $52, and then they're all over it. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right. They've been worried about the safety of players for 3 months, but they're not quite going to do anything till they figure out where the TV contract's at.
Exactly.
Yeah, let one of these players, one of them find out that these players on their downtime are selling their jerseys for money.
Right.
Yeah, the NCAA will calm down so hard and just kind of pretend like the last 3 months didn't even matter.
And it doesn't, man. I mean, I think that their non-action proves that it doesn't really matter.
You're right. It's sad.
Exactly. Well, we're gonna do a quick. I want to know y'all thoughts of y'all the prediction of y'all schools. Starting with you, Julian. How you think Georgia State gonna come out?
So, first off, because of the 2 canceled games with Alabama and Murray State, money's not going to be a big thing. But I could see the Georgia State come out with 6 wins this season. I think this is going to be a growing year because of all the defensive pieces they have. And this is before any additions they might want to make. But I think this is going to be a growing year. But I think it's important for Sean Elliott not to repeat what happened in 2018, where the team came off a bowl appearance and they won 2 games that following season. So I think they win 6 games. I think the highest being 8, and I think they have a solid season overall. I think they do well. Will hopefully have a better showing against Southern, unlike what they did last year. But I think 6 games I think they get 6 games this season.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest with you. I covered Southern last year. Southern was like they were good. It was a couple games they should have won. They could have possibly would have cracked the 25 or whatever. But hey, it is.
I was shocked when they lost to Liberty though. That was something I didn't see coming.
Yeah. Mike Anthony.
Well, yeah, you guys kind of touched on it there. I think you can't really call last season a disappointment for Georgia Southern. They went 7-6. They got back to a bowl game. Of course, they did drop at the Liberty, but they you could definitely call it an unfulfilled season. They had bigger dreams, especially after beating App State for a second consecutive year. Not only that, but they did it on national TV against a nationally ranked App squad for a second year in a row. And then for the second year in a row, they followed that up by losing a couple that not that they should have walked all over the opponent, but they definitely were favored in those games, cost them a chance to win the East, to play for a conference championship. So this year they come back. They lose a good bit from some places. They gain a good bit back in healthy players returning. A big piece is going to be Shy Wertz back for his fourth year starting quarterback. He has command of this offense. They've got a stable of running back. They've got, for my money, 2 of the best inside linebackers in the conference. They lose a lot out of the secondary, but if the offensive line can perform better, they were hurt all last year. They spent half the season just trying to find a guy who could make a shotgun snap. But to me, with that running game and with the running talent they have, if they can get the guys working up front on the line and make some holes, I think you're going to see a return to an explosive Georgia Southern offense that wasn't always there last year. A lot of times it was the defense that won games. The defense should be solid again. But this year, I think you've got the potential of seeing Georgia Southern return to putting up 30 and 40 points on good weeks.
Yeah. And you forgot about Tyler Bass.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a third straight kind of all-timer kicker for Georgia Southern. They had Adrian Mora back in their FCS days. Now the Falcons kicker, Younghoe Koo, he was there, a starter for 3 years. Bass took over right after him. Now it's going to be Christensen coming in. He's a sophomore, and that's kind of been the mold. Each of the last 3 guys got their chance as a sophomore, made themselves stick, and became a star as a junior, a nationally renowned guy by the time they were a senior. So hopefully that trend keeps going for Southern, and that's definitely been an unspoken strength. They've had great special teams basically since they've come onto the FBS scene. That'll be another thing that needs to continue. When they're not always the best team on the field, you can eke out some victories there in those games where you win the special teams battle.
All right. That's good. Appreciate it. Mr. Lincoln.
Yeah, I think for us, man, for the Yellow Jackets, I think we'll see an improvement from the 3-9 record of last year. I just don't see. We had a few close games last year as well that could have gone our way, but didn't. But I like what Coach Collins is doing with the recruiting. The recruiting is really strong. And hopefully, all of those stars can turn into productive players on the field. But I see I see us getting to maybe 6 or 7 wins this season. The coaching is going to be critical because I believe there are going to be a lot of young guys that are going to play. So that coaching staff is really strong. Couple of three, maybe 4. Former Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets on the staff, and those guys know how to win. and I think that will translate over into wins. And I think one key factor there is when the players believe that the coach believes in them. And I believe that Collins, he shows that, and I believe it transfers over into the players, man. I think that's a big factor. When your coach believes that you can make a play or believes in your talent, then it translates into onto the field rather.
Yeah, I know Tech, man. It's gonna. I'm not gonna say this year, but I'll say next year. They're gonna be a good team, man. They should be.
Yes.
By next year they should be playing in the bowl game.
Yes, it's gonna take a little bit to get us back, man, on track. But I think this year we'll see a vast improvement.
Yeah. You want to say?
For UGA, I'm expecting another dominant season. I believe that, and then the only shaky game is going to be versus Alabama. They're always, stacked on every position, really. So we're going to see a good season, no matter who it is at quarterback. I think it's going to be, JT Daniels. Him and Newman, I believe, is going to fight for that spot. But either way, I think both of them are solid quarterbacks. So whatever's going on with that team is going to be successful. I mean, that's not speaking for the bowl games or the playoffs. I believe that have this season be successful for the Dogs, and if they play the full season, I think you're going to see something special from the UGA.
All right. Well, there you have it, you guys. Predictions of the Big Four Georgia schools. If y'all have any predictions, hey, in the chat, hey, let me know of your favorite team. If you're watching this show at a later time, hit us up in the comment section about your predictions for either UGA, Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern. We'll answer your comments at a later time. You said West Georgia. Hey, West Georgia. Hey, whatever. So, but thank you guys for coming out this evening, doing the show, predicting y'all teams. I really appreciate that. Again, Julian, tell them where they can find you at.
You can find me at Cynical Peach. It's my YouTube channel. I do videos on Georgia sports, but in particular, I also do sport videos on the former athletes. So if you want to find out about the fall of BJ Upton or fall of Dan Ugla, former Braves players, check out my channel. I'm even doing a future video on Marvin Williams, former Atlanta Hawk, and seen as one of the biggest busts in Hawks history. So check that out.
Okay. Mike Anthony?
Again, you can find me at statesboroherald.com, at HeraldGSsports on Twitter. We're going to be ramping up here. I know it's been touch and go throughout the summer. Finally relieved to be writing about some sports and not trying to dig up crazy pieces to fill those sports pages every day.
All right. Mr. Lincoln?
Yes, sir. Everyone can find me on Twitter at Jimy Lincoln. That's Jimy Lincoln. Also, follow. I run a couple of music websites. So SpitfireHipHop.com. You can find us all over the place on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And then the radio broadcast as well is Spitfire Radio, and then you can find that broadcast at myksfr.com.
Hey, Mr. Lincoln, me and my buddy DaVonte, we need to talk to you about that radio business that you got going.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and DaVonte?
You can find me at Cookie by Nature on all social media handles. Also, implore you to follow our actual group, Georgia Sports Hospitality Media. That's at GSHM_group. So follow us on every social media platform you can find us on.
All right, appreciate it. And everybody in the chat. Nap Dog, man, I'm glad you enjoyed the show, man. Appreciate you. And share this content out with other Atlanta sports, sports fanatics and Georgia college teams fanatics as well. BMF Animations and stuff. He said, "Hey guys, I just posted a video of me drawing NFL logos, and would appreciate it if you subscribe." All right, I'll look you up. And follow us on Twitter. If hit me up in the DM as well, and we can talk as well. So, with that being said, we about to end the show. Y'all have a great evening. And as always, come holla at your hometown sports podcast. We out.
All right.